The Iowa Spirit on
It's 12 o'clock. And now from TV-8, where news is #1, Molly Cooney, John McLaughlin, and Mary Brubaker. This is TV-8 News live at noon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. John McLaughlin has the week off. President George Bush said today he can't offer any assurances that the American hostages in Lebanon will be freed anytime soon. But he says the U.S. is looking for signs of change from Iran. The president met with reporters at the White House today. He started out the news conference with more on his war on drugs, calling it a national menace. He said the government must attack it with every means at its disposal, and that final details of the administration plan will be unveiled September 5th. Questions then turned to the situation in Iran, where the possibility of talks are becoming more discouraging.
I think that if Iran decided they wanted those hostages to come out of there, there would be a good likelihood that that would happen. Perhaps not with certainty, but a good likelihood. And so, as you know, the position of the United States government has been that Iran, and a couple of other states, have been involved in the state sponsorship of terrorism. And so I don't think it's a question of how long, it's a question of not, in my view, it's a question of exploring every avenue to get these people back.
Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister is tossing cold water on hopes his country might help win the hostages' release, saying he won't talk to Syrian officials about the issue because, quote, the issue does not concern us. The government of South Africa has a new leader today. F.W. de Klerk took the oath of office after a bitter power struggle with P.W. Botha. The civil rights activists don't expect many significant changes.
De Klerk, leader of the National Party, was sworn in this morning as the interim president of South Africa. This after the shock resignation last night of P.W. Botha, the man who had been head of state here for 11 years. Botha went on national television last night to inform the nation that he was stepping down because his cabinet was ignoring him. The critical issue was a planned meeting between Botha's successor, F.W. de Klerk, and the president of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda. Kaunda has provided a haven for the African National Congress, an organization dedicated to the overthrow of South Africa's apartheid regime. The political opponents of this country's new leader, F.W. de Klerk, are making the most of the chaos now surrounding the ruling National Party just 3 weeks before the presidential election.
After years of trusted and loyal service to the National Party, Mr. Botha has been kicked in the pants, as has become customary in the National Party today, and I don't think it augurs well for anybody.
Botha's bitter resignation speech stunned political observers here in the manner in which it attempted to smear his successor. For his part, the ruling party's presidential candidate, F.W. de Klerk, said it was sad that a man who had done so much for his country had to depart under these unfortunate circumstances. Richard Wagner, CBS News, Johannesburg.
And sides appear to be forming in the struggle to create a new government in Poland. Today, Solidarity leader Lech Wałęsa welcomed the collapse of communist efforts to pull together a coalition. He also rejected the communist proposed alternative candidate from the Allied Peasant Party. In local news, Perry's largest employer is back in business today. IBP opened its doors at the meatpacking plant that Oscar Mayer closed 6 months ago. Oscar Mayer claimed a high overhead and inefficient production lines forced them to shut down the Perry facility. Today, more than 300 workers are on the job at the newly refurbished pork slaughter facility. The modified plant will process sows in addition to butcher hogs, a change that has new IBP workers and hog farmers smiling.
Summit on education with the governors, so we're looking forward to that. September 27th to 28th. What was that again? Prairie 4, basically the day in CERN. I think an important thing, diverse opinions together,
Obviously, that's the wrong tape. The plant will employ nearly 700 people by this time next year. Perry's business community is pleased to have the plant open again. We'll have the story on the economic impact on Perry tonight, live at 6. A labor dispute in Marshalltown is reaching full boil today as an investigator with the National Labor Relations Board meets with union officials there. The dispute is over the closing order issued by the Montford meatpacking plant in Marshalltown, an action which terminates the plant's 800 employees. A new firm, MSP Resources of Lincoln, Nebraska, plans to reopen the plant immediately. Last night, the Marshalltown City Council voted to suspend all economic aid to Montfort until the company explains its actions. A Montfort spokesman this morning told TV-8 News his company will provide the council with any information it needs and says he expects the problem to be resolved. Meanwhile, leaders of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union have filed unfair labor practices charges against or with the NLRB. Investigation is underway today. TV-8's Chris Lidstad is in Marshalltown today, and he'll have a full report tonight at 6. Voters along the Mississippi River are going to the polls today to decide if gambling boats can dock in their 3 counties. A simple majority of voters in Allamakee, Clayton, and Dubuque counties must approve for the countywide referendum to pass. If the voters approve, the State Racing and Gaming Commission still must decide how many licenses they will grant and where the boats will be located. Other counties will be voting on similar issues in the coming weeks. A Des Moines police officer is hospitalized today after his squad car was struck by another vehicle early this morning. Officer Dan Wemmett is suffering head and leg injuries. His squad car was struck broadside by Scott Morrill of Adel at the intersection of Southeast 5th and McKinley. Authorities say Morrill was charged with failure to stop at the 4-way stop intersection. Wemmett is in satisfactory condition. Still to come today, rescuers are trying to recover the body of Mickey Leland and others in the Ethiopian plane crash, and last-minute preparations are underway for the fair. Stay with us. There has been another fatal accident at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the second in less than a week. Military officials say 3 soldiers died early today when an Army observation helicopter crashed during a training mission. Wednesday night, a C-130 plane crashed during one exercise, killing 1 crew member and injuring 6 others. Officials in Ethiopia now report that crews have recovered the remains of Congressman Mickey Leland and 15 others who were killed in a plane crash last week. The bodies had to be hoisted up to helicopters one by one from the wreckage on a steep mountainside in southwestern Ethiopia. They were flown to the nearby town of Gambela and placed aboard an Ethiopian Air Force plane headed for the capital. However, officials say it could take up to a week for a team of American forensic experts to identify the remains. A group of investigators from Washington, D.C. has arrived to help Ethiopian authorities determine the exact cause of that crash. A new report on Iowa's education system says the tuition at the state's 15 community colleges is too high and should be reduced. The report also concludes that the tuition at the 3 state universities has been rising too fast and that Iowans attending the 3 schools should not have to bear more than 30% of the cost of their education. The 100-page report is the work of a legislative task force.
We are trying to create a system in which every single person in the state of Iowa has access to post-secondary education without regard to money, without regard to where they live, without regard to race, color, creed, sex. We want everybody to have the chance to get the kind of higher education that they want.
The task force has a 3-day meeting beginning tomorrow in which the members will go over the goals. We'll have more on the report tonight at 6. 3 Ottumwa men say they are lucky to be alive today. Their camper housing a tattoo parlor was destroyed early this morning after it caught on fire. The 3 men were sleeping in the trailer, which was parked just outside the Grand Avenue entrance to the state fairgrounds. An arson crew is investigating. Owners of Chuck's A1 Tattoo estimate they lost $13,000 worth of equipment and personal belongings in the blaze.
There's no reason for it. So we have no enemies. You know, we do good work. It's just somebody that's jealous.
It's just like a bad nightmare. I thought it was a nightmare at first. It's like a bad dream. Just fire everywhere. We're just lucky we got out of it alive.
Chuck's A1 Tattoo has had their trailer at the State Fair for 6 years. They were hoping to set up another trailer in time for tomorrow's opening day. And it is the day before opening day of the Iowa State Fair. Last-minute preparations continue today. The annual parade starts at 6 o'clock this evening at the state capitol and winds up at Betts Auditorium. TV-8's Todd Makel has more on all the preparations.
The hustle and bustle of the Grand Concourse, the sounds of last-minute construction, and giant horses roaming the sidewalks means the State Fair is just around the corner.
Concessionaires are busy. The turkey booth is getting new gas lines to the grills. The midway is still packed into semi-trucks, while carnies get some shut-eye before unloading.
The huge twirling machines. Would you believe outdoor ice skating in the middle of August? These sneaky kids didn't.
Along with the familiar sights, plenty of new attractions will give fair veterans a change of pace, like an ice rink.
Well, this is run mainly pretty much like your air conditioner or your refrigerator. It has a compressor, and there are coils on the ground here, and we freeze it down to about 12 degrees, and it's about 2 inches thick.
TV-8 and Pepsi are sponsoring the ice skating review. Their 35-minute free show should provide a
Cool retreat for
fairgoers. Stock car racing returns to the fair after a 4-year absence, now that the old lime track surface has been changed to dirt.
Well, I'm sure car racing is on the up, and I think it's coming back, and we'll have good attendance.
And one of the most spectacular events is sure to be the famous 40-horse hitch from Ziering, Iowa. This afternoon, workers washed each of the 1-ton Belgian horses. Together, they look like this, and won't be hard to spot as they tour the fairgrounds August 16th, 17th, and 18th. Todd Magel, TV-8 News.
I can smell those corn dogs now, can't you?
Oh, yeah, those horses are beautiful. I always feel bad every time I have to wash the dog, but can you imagine?
Little. No, not a 1-ton.
That's a lot of horse meat. Anyway, on the hoof, that is. We have a nice forecast and a state fair forecast right after this.
For the latest official forecast, 24 hours a day, call TV-8 Weather, 262-7173.
Just kind of puts you in the mood for summer, doesn't it? Today will, too, because we had a weak front cross the state, and as it did, it left behind a big improvement in air quality. Right now, it's mostly sunny with 77 degrees. We have a northerly wind at 8, and it is considerably drier. Humidity levels last night were in the 90s, mid to upper 90s, and dew point was only 2 degrees below the temperature. In other words, we were pretty close to condensation level. But that's much more pleasant out there right now. Barometer is steady at 30.03. You get the feeling you're moving? They're taking Skycam in for a closer look at the freeway. Well, scenic shot, I guess. This is, too. At this hour, much of the state is in the 60s and 70s. Very, very pleasant weather out there. The combination of cool temperatures with the dry air and sunshine, kind of have to travel a long way to find a climate like this. And morning lows were considerably more pleasant than they were a couple of weeks ago, too. We've been cooling off nicely last night in the mid to upper 50s to lower 60s. And this is not an improvement. Ragweed is all the way up to 56. This is the time of year when we really begin to see it rise. The Ides of August, from about now until frost, we'll have plenty of pollen, dust, and mold spore in the air. And this is a combination of pollen, dust, and mold spore. This is just ragweed, but if you're bothered by things in the air, it's not necessarily ragweed. The moisture has certainly increased the mold spore. Here's some moisture right down here. This is the swinging around the southwestern end of a frontal line that moved through the state as a cold front coming in from the north and west, or a cool front at least, and a very cool one coming in from the Pacific. This is the time of year when we've all kind of been in the same boat for a while. It's been as hot in the Dakotas as it has in the Southwest. But things are beginning to change, and they did so in a dramatic way today. A very strong high moving through southern Canada brought Bismarck down to a record low 38 degrees this morning. Meanwhile, down in Phoenix, they are working on a record 28 consecutive days above 100, and it looks as though they may get very close. They've been near 110 several times. Going to be improvement in the south and east because here's the leading edge of that cooler air heading into the southeastern states. They had dense fog about we had some of that too. About the eastern half of the state had problems with the eastern half of the country, problems with fog and haze this morning. That is beginning to improve. Here, certainly, they're hanging on to some of it in the south and east, and also had some very heavy thunder showers, 2 inches of rain around Georgia late today. Temperatures down there, 60s and 70s. Let's make that a 91 down in Miami. Even the computer hiccups once in a while. And there's Bismarck up there with only 39. They are slow to warm up this morning. So here's how things will look for us today. We should reach the mid to upper 70s, lower 80s, partly cloudy skies, light northeasterly winds. By tonight, we'll keep the northeasterly winds, partly cloudy. Most of our lows mid to upper 50s to lower 60s. Good sleeping weather with the windows open again. And tomorrow, just perfect for the first day of the fair with highs in the lower 80s for the most part. Mostly sunny, a few little scattered clouds for shade. What more could a guy want? Here's how it looks for central Iowa. Tonight, I know the answer to that question is more rain. Partly cloudy, little if any rain is expected for a while as that frontal line moves away from us. High near 80 with northeasterly winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. By tomorrow, tonight a low near 60. Clear to partly cloudy with northeasterly winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Then tomorrow, highs in the lower 80s and mostly sunny. The extended outlook, little if any rain here either for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Lows mostly 60s, highs in the 80s, and little if any rain. That's a long way away, and sometimes that extended outlook changes but it doesn't look like any big weather system's just ready to swoop in for a while, so it's kind of on a dry track.
But the cool weather feels great.
Isn't that wonderful?
No kidding. All right, thanks, Connie. Taking a look at Wall Street now, the market is lower in moderate trading. Volume the first 2.5 hours, 72 million shares. The Dow is up 9 points today, 26.87. Average share of common stock is up 3 pennies. Midwest cattle prices figures are not available. On the interior Iowa hog market, butchers weak to 50 lower. Sows today are steady. And in Chicago, figures for corn, bean, and wheat not available today. However, Mary Brubaker is available. She's in the next studio, and she's got lots of different things coming up.
And Cheryl Jennings-Sauer is going to tell us how to lose weight without conventional dieting. And then we're going into the kitchen where a chef has, made a wonderful gourmet meal for us. So lots of variety right after this. Getting lean and healthy does not have to make you miserable, says Cheryl Jennings-Sauer. It doesn't have to be a miserable experience to diet. You don't have to step on the scales all the time. You don't have to give up your favorite food. You don't have to diet in the conventional sense. Are you for real?
I'm for real.
You just have to change your lifestyle and take some precautions, right?
Right, and I would like to add that the new research is really supporting this. I didn't dream this up all by myself. They have not been able to find a correlation between how much a person eats and how fat they are. There is a correlation between how much fat a person eats and how overfat they are. So it wasn't the potatoes and the bread and the pasta. It was the sour cream on top of the potato and the cheese on top of the pasta and the butter on the bread.
You're saying a lot of the same things that doctors are saying. Get the fat out.
Yeah, we really need to cut back. We can't eliminate it. I had one client who actually eliminated almost all of the fat from her diet and started having nightmares and insomnia and all kinds of strange symptoms. So a happy medium, and most Americans are way above that. We're getting more fat than we need. Not only the obvious fats that we were just talking about, but hidden in pastries and fried foods and snack foods too.
That's right. We don't always have to see it.
We don't have to see it. It's sometimes there.
And if we can taste it, it's inside there somewhere. Why do we throw away our scales? We don't throw them away. We just don't step on them all the time.
Put it in the attic for a while. A lot of times the scale will give you bad information. For instance, a
woman who starts working out and they build some new muscle, and that might show up as an increase on the scale. She might be losing
that. In the process, in the scale, it's very discouraging. She might decide, gee, I'm a failure. I'm going to, just blow this diet. I'm going to eat every cookie in the house. The other problem might be on a traditional low-calorie diet, you do lose weight. It's often very much water and muscle. And the water is replaced very quickly, and that's the rebound that we keep hearing about.
We're watching some people exercising by doing some very brisk walking or aerobics, and you say that this is really important when you're trying to lose weight.
That is a key. A lot of people say, not only does it burn fat, this is the very best way to burn fat, but it also sometimes decreases your appetite for foods that might have been a problem, like junk foods, sweets, and that kind of thing. And try it. It might work for you.
You have some interesting things in the book, too. Little tips, like if you completely reduce salt from your diet or eliminate it, you might get on some kind of a craving where you then go on a junk food binge. So it's not a good idea to do extremes.
Right, extremes of anything. And dieting, by its definition, is an extreme. You're jumping in and totally disrupting your current lifestyle. And a lot of times it's not comfortable to people. So after a few weeks, perhaps they get to their so-called goal weight, they abandon it. And when you abandon something like a diet, you get right back where you started. So we're talking about an attitude as well as a habit and lifestyle change. Really think long-term.
And lots of common sense ideas.
Lots of common sense.
Cheryl Jennings-Sauer has written this all in a book called Living Lean by Choosing More, and it's available at most of the Walden stores.
Right, Walden bookstores.
Good, Cheryl. Thank you so much for being with us. Stay for lunch. Okay. You're going to wonder what Billy Ray and MDA and gourmet cooking and a special evening all have in common. We'll tell you right after this. chef at the Hyperion Club, John Benson, is the district director for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and they are cooking up a wonderful evening with a few other friends. 8 chefs in all are cooking up a wonderful special evening to take place when, John?
August 25th at 6:30 p.m. at the University Park Holiday Inn.
That's soon, and we're hungry. So let's talk about why we're doing it. It's a special evening honoring...
Paul Frederickson, the general manager of TV-8, has been very involved with MDA, and I hope you can be there, Mary, that night.
I wouldn't miss it because Tony is making our mouths water. Tony, this is on the menu, right?
This is correct.
And what is it?
Well, we're going to start the evening with an Iowa gold consomme that consists of turkey broth and, of course, Iowa corn, being the gold. Next, we move on to a seafood salad.
Oh, that looks lovely.
Done with shrimp and scallops and a nice lemon lime dressing. And then for the main entree, we have a stuffed chicken breast.
Oh, that is beautiful. And you have gone out of your way to make it look lovely. Fruit for dessert, Cheryl would approve of that. And a little vino, of course. And Billy Ray, the former First Lady of Iowa, is going to be there. And why is this a Billy Ray evening, John?
Well, Mrs. Ray is involved because of her involvement with the community, and she wanted to help the Muscular Dystrophy Association with this event and thank all the corporate citizens in Des Moines that are giving not only the Muscular Dystrophy Association, but to other groups and associations in Iowa. And this is a great opportunity to do that, and also to recognize Paul Frederickson and TV-8 for their 19 years of being part of the Jerry Lewis Telethon.
Another familiar face, of course, is, of course, Governor Ray. We hope he will be there. That's a family picture of Billy. But Mike Pace will be emceeing, and Tony, you've got a number of your friends. You are president of the Greater Des Moines Culinary Association, is that right?
This is correct, yes. We're involved in educating chefs, trying to get them involved in community projects such as this.
Wonderful.
And getting the general community involved with chefs also.
You know, we all go to a lot of charity dinners, and sometimes you'd rather eat at home, but not this time. And I think that's a wonderful idea for all of you to get more involved in these activities. John, we want to raise a little money, too, for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. So, if you would like a ticket to that dinner, you may call the association number, and that is...
225-2159. Please give us a call. We want you to enjoy the evening. Tom Bozen's providing the flowers, and he wanted you to have these, Mary.
These are lovely. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I will be there. I'll come from the fair, run home, change my clothes, because we got to dress up a little bit, right, Tony?
Right.
Thank you for being here today, bringing us lunch. Thank you, John, and we'll see you next week. Back to the other studio. Shall I bring some of that food along?
I was going to say, it looks a lot better than corn dogs we were talking about earlier, so if they have another extra, we'll divvy it up.
Looks like too much for 3 people.
I think
anyway,
so.
too.
I don't know. What's on tap for tomorrow, Mary?
Tomorrow, of course, I will begin my coverage every noon at the Iowa State Fair. We'll be talking with Mary Lucas, fair director, about what's new and what's fun and, well, what's there.
Okay, thanks a lot. What about the fair forecast?
What about that fair? It looks fairly fair, too, because we should see partly to mostly sunny, mostly clear skies today and tonight. High today near 80, low tonight near 60, and tomorrow a high in the lower 80s, mostly sunny. Nearly perfect. Right now, 77 degrees.
Can't argue with that. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good day.